We'll talk about what's happening on Diwan Housing, the ET Now exclusive news break. Let's first start with Neha and find out what is it that she's picking up. Neha, who seems to be closest to being a taker for Diwan Housing?
Aisha, at this point, it really is a race mainly between three players. Difficult to say who's closest to the finish line, but more importantly, as far as the Diwan Housing is concerned, remember that there have been on the block, in fact, the management had indicated that they are looking for a strategic partner. At this point, I'm given to understand that Tata Capital is aggressively looking at this opportunity to grow their business. In fact, they have been in preliminary talks and are exploring options to partly buy the promoter stake, which is a little over 39% at this point. How this will pan really depends on the kind of stiff competition they get from other bidders. Remember, there's been a lot of interest in the domestic space. We've also heard of the Piramals eyeing this stake, but at this point we're given to understand that while the Piramals were insisting on getting management control, at this point the promoters of Diwan Housing, we are given to understand, have not been very keen to relinquish controlling stake. This has been one area which has been a roadblock as far as negotiation is concerned. But coming back to Tata Capital, they have been pretty aggressive ever since Mr. Sabarwal has come on board. In fact, he has big plans for the business, and what better plan than an inorganic growth opportunity, the kind that you get in DHFL, a retail book that is of a sizable amount that can be added to their books, which would be difficult in terms of scaling up otherwise. So all these are opportunities that have attracted Tata Capital at this point to the fray as far as buying part stake in DHFL is concerned. The talks are preliminary. They may or may not fructify into a deal, but the very point that I'm trying to make is the interest that domestic players have in DHFL is noteworthy at this point, more so in the aftermath of the debt crisis at il&fs, and more particularly the kind of controversy we saw after the allegations put forward by Cobra Post. But there's more to this story, and let me go across to Ajay, who has all the details regarding the interest international players have for DHFL.
Well, that's correct, Neha. I gathered that Lone Star Private Equity, which is a very large private equity, US based, and have got assets of about $80 billion. We understand that they are also doing due diligence on acquiring stake in DHFL at the company level. Now we need to understand this. What I'm gathering is that Indian players, the one which you spoke about, Tatas and many others, they are keen more about the retail book of the business. So the transaction, if fructifies there, would be of a different nature. What we are gathering is that private equity players, the one we are talking about right now, Lone Star, they are keen in picking up stake at the company level. And they are only interested in taking meaty chunks, 20% upwards. And EY, of course, is doing the diligence on this transaction for Lone Star. But they are not very keen on giving a huge premium as well. Remember, the stock has rebounded quite a lot from recent lows and is a distressed company right now, a crisis-laden company, and private equity would like to get in at this point at distressed valuation, not giving a huge premium. Once the management change happens, then obviously there will be value addition. But clearly the assets are good. Promoter may be an issue for the market, and probably that is the reason most want to acquire a majority stake. So let's see how it goes from here on.
That's the story on DHFL. Mahantesh, you want to come in there with any commentary given what we've seen on the counter, all the news play out, and now active bids perhaps?
Got it right?
Vantage?
Yeah, so most of the investors actually have suffered in this stock, it having crashed quite substantially over the past several months. And we too, in terms of our perspective, before the stock fall, held the view that the company is good in terms of its entire business model and the kind of assets that they have, or retail assets that they have. So we thought that here was a good company, but yes, you do have certain periods of time where markets punish heavily companies which are not known to have good corporate governance standards, and when they particularly come out to the fore. So the past is past. The future does look brighter for DHFL because nothing is really disturbed as far as on the business front going forward. There needs to be a management change, a change that will bring in proper governance into the company. So we're looking forward to that event really happening before we really get back to the same old perspective that we used to have about this business.
Okay, that was DHFL.